Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a true masterclass in human connection. We're going to unpack the foundational principles of Dale Carnegie's incredibly influential playbook on human relations. Whether you're leading a massive corporate team, trying to close a really tough sale, or honestly just wanting to improve your relationships at home with family and friends, understanding how people operate is literally the ultimate superpower. So we're going to explore these timeless rules of human engineering that can absolutely transform the way you interact with the world around you. So let's kick things off with a pretty wild statistic from the Carnegie Institute. 85%. Extensive research showed that even in highly technical fields like engineering, for example, about 85% of your financial success is actually due to human engineering. That means your personality and your ability to lead people, which means only 15% of success comes from pure technical knowledge. Think about it. You can easily hire technical ability, right? An accountant, an architect, an engineer. But the person who has technical knowledge, plus the ability to express ideas, assume leadership, and really arouse enthusiasm among people, that's the person who's headed straight for the top.
All right, so how do we actually master this human engineering? Let's start with section 1, the danger of criticism, and look at exactly what we should avoid doing. There's an unbelievable story behind this quote. Back in 1931, there was this notorious, incredibly violent criminal named Two Gun Crowley. He was trapped by police in a New York apartment, and while machine guns were literally firing into his hideout, he wrote a letter saying, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm." Now, keep in mind, this was a guy who had just gunned down a police officer simply for asking to see his driver's license. When Crowley eventually arrived at death row, he didn't even blame himself. He actually said, "This is what I get for defending myself." The takeaway here is profound. If the most dangerous mobsters and criminals don't blame themselves for anything, do you really think the everyday people in your life will? When you criticize someone, they don't just agree with you. No, they immediately go on the defensive and do everything they can to justify themselves.
Which brings us to a really fascinating historical example. It kind of forces us to pause and ask, what would Abraham Lincoln do? During the Civil War, right after the Battle of Gettysburg, Lincoln had this heaven-sent opportunity. Confederate General Robert E. Lee was trapped between a flooded river and the victorious Union Army. So Lincoln ordered his commander, General Meade, to attack immediately and just end the war. But Meade hesitated. He procrastinated. He called a council of war in direct violation of Lincoln's orders, and the waters ended up receding, which allowed Lee to escape. Lincoln was absolutely furious. In bitter disappointment, he sat down and wrote Meade a scathing letter of severe rebuke. But here's the kicker. That letter, it was never actually mailed. It was found tucked away among Lincoln's papers after his death. You see, Lincoln had learned from bitter experience that sharp criticisms and rebukes almost invariably end in futility. He realized that mailing that letter wouldn't change the past, right? It would only make General Meade try to justify himself, harbor deep resentment, and probably impair his future usefulness as a commander. So the crucial point here is that criticizing, condemning, or complaining simply doesn't work. It just wounds a person's precious pride and breeds resentment.
So if criticism just starves a relationship, what actually feeds it? That brings us to section 2, the hunger for appreciation.
Now, we've got to be super careful here to distinguish between two very different things. There is a massive difference between cheap flattery and genuine appreciation. Flattery is counterfeit. It's totally selfish, and it comes purely from the teeth out. And it usually fails because discerning people can see right through it. But sincere appreciation, that is unselfish and comes from the heart out. Charles Schwab, who was actually one of the first business leaders to earn $1 million a year running United States Steel, said his ultimate secret was his ability to arouse enthusiasm among his people. And he didn't do it by finding fault. He did it by being lavish in his praise. We regularly nourish the physical bodies of our friends and employees, but we so rarely give them the words of appreciation that nourish their self-esteem. Okay, so once we start appreciating others, we need to understand influence. Moving on to section 3, arousing an eager want through persuasion psychology. Just think about this for a second. Do you bait a fishing hook with strawberries and cream? Well, of course not. You might absolutely love strawberries and cream, but fish prefer worms. So when you go fishing, you don't dangle a strawberry in front of the fish. You dangle a worm. So why on earth don't we use this exact same common sense when we're trying to win over people? We spend so much time talking about what we want, which is completely absurd because everyone else is just like you. They are eternally interested in what they want. To see this principle in action, look at the great philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. He and his son were once trying to get a calf into a barn, and they made the incredibly common mistake of thinking only of what they wanted.
Emerson pushed and his son pulled, but the calf just stiffened its legs because it was only thinking of what it wanted, which was to stay right there in the pasture. Then a housemaid came along. Now, she didn't write brilliant philosophical essays, but she had calf sense. She thought of what the calf wanted, put her finger in its mouth, and let the calf suck her finger as she gently and easily led it right into the barn. And this story perfectly illustrates the specific sequence of effective persuasion, whether you're talking to your kids or writing a high-stakes business email. First, acknowledge their value. Second, state the mutual problem neutrally. And third, highlight the benefit to them. The source text shares this great example of a freight terminal superintendent. He wrote this terrible, I-focused letter to a customer, complaining about how late afternoon deliveries were causing congestion, and it totally failed because it only talked about the terminal's problems. But when he rewrote it to be you-focused, following these exact steps, the magic happened. The new letter acknowledged the customer's 14 years of patronage, explained the congestion neutrally, and highlighted that making morning deliveries would ensure the customer's own trucks would get out faster and their freight would ship immediately. See? By shifting the focus to what the other person wants, resistance immediately melts into cooperation. All right, so we've stopped criticizing, started appreciating, and learned to arouse a want. Now for section 4, show genuine interest. This is the ultimate shift. So who do you think is the greatest winner of friends the world has ever known? You might actually pass him tomorrow walking down the street. It's the family dog. Seriously, think about it. A hen has to lay eggs, a cow has to give milk, but a dog is the only animal that makes a living giving nothing but love. When you get within 10 feet of a friendly dog, it just starts wagging its tail. It is genuinely excited to see you with zero ulterior motives. The psychology here is flawless. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. People simply aren't interested in you. They're interested in themselves. When you show genuine, unselfish interest in them, kind of like the great magician Howard Thurston, who would literally look at his audience and say, I love my audience before every single show, you build incredible, lasting connections. Let's bring all of this together and look at the 4 big takeaways of this human engineering playbook. First, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. It literally only puts people on the defensive. Second, give honest and sincere appreciation to really nourish people's self-esteem. Third, arouse in the other person an eager want by looking at things completely from their perspective. And fourth, become genuinely interested in other people. And remember, when you actually practice these rules, you benefit just as much as the people you're interacting with. It's a genuine win-win. The real takeaway here is that human connection, it's a highly learnable skill. It's not magic, and it's not something you're just inherently born with or without. It takes practice, patience, and a daily shift in your perspective. I want to leave you with this really profound thought from the text. I shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, let me do it now. So ask yourself, in your very next conversation today, are you going to be focused on your own ego, or will you truly seek to understand the person standing right in front of you? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.